So we are reading Ultimate Journey by Robert Monroe. We are on chapter 2, page number 14 of the PDF.
The long, long trail. Throughout history, labels have been developed for those who won't leave well enough alone. Infidels, mystics, sinners, rebels, revolutionaries, misfits, neurotics, anarchists, adventurers, traitors, explorers, visionaries, researchers. Add to the list what you will.
So all these people, they did not accept what was for what was. They were always investigating. They were always looking for something new. These are the people who actually make us grow as a society, as a world. Okay, so naturally they wouldn't leave what was alone. They wanted something more.
Any deviation from the accepted norm engenders risk. All of these individuals have been, for the most part, aware of the risk. If they were not, ignorance was no excuse. If there was a price to be paid in reaction or effect, they must or should have known about it before they took action. No sad tears for the wounded or the dead in such cases. I know this well, and you may discover it for yourself.
So again, these people always differed from what was normal, right? And whenever we step into the unknown, there is always a risk involved, whether we like it or not. This is something that we read in Magical Child also, where the child, the matrix system, right? The first matrix of the child is the womb. The next matrix is the mother. So the child sticks to the mother in the beginning. The mother is what his world is all about, or her world is all about. Then she starts or he starts stepping away from the mother, but always constantly comes back to the mother. Okay. So, like that, anyone who deviates from the trodden path, always there's a risk involved because you're treading into the unknown. You do not know what is expected. Right. So, like that, over here, Robert Monroe also says that he was also he was stepping into the unknown. Nothing was written about these things that he was talking about when he wrote his first book, right? And he actually felt that he may be orchestrated from society because of that book that he wrote. So he was actually very scared of publishing his material. But he was surprised that when he published the material, many people started coming to him. So over here, he clearly says that there is no tears for these people, right? Because if they get lost, no one will think about it. But it is required for the growth of society.
So it must be said, the different overview you are beginning to consider can be at most only a belief until you begin to test it for validity within your own ongoing experience during your life as an active human mind.
So what does this mean, right? Most of what we believe to be absolute today will turn out to be not absolute, right? So at a point, we felt that people felt the world was flat, but then it was discovered it was not. Then it felt that the smallest piece was, the smallest living creature was the one-celled amoeba, let's say. And then they found bacteria, they found viruses, and so on and so forth. So everything is getting, all the beliefs that we have is constantly getting beaten down. So what is true today may not be true tomorrow according to whatever has been discovered.
As small beliefs convert to knowns, perhaps larger different overview beliefs will follow the same path until you are free.
So again, your beliefs will keep changing, right? New knowns will come into being. And when those knowns come, the overall belief system is bound to change.
From this point on, the delivery of a personal narrative seems the most convenient and definitive method of explanation. What to me are knowns can produce only beliefs in you unless you have had or are having similar experiences that demand verification.
So now this is important, right? We keep talking about in awareness. There are two aspects to wisdom. One is knowledge or information, and the other is experience. Your knowledge is empty if you don't have the experience. And if you have the experience, but do not have an understanding of that experience, again, it is empty because you really don't know what you have experienced. So when we have information or knowledge and the experience, that's when it becomes wisdom.
Let me therefore attempt to tell it like it is for me, allowing you to form your own beliefs, which experience may in time convert to knowns.
So again, this is a book about his experiences. He's giving us the information. Now it is up to us to go and experience it so that it becomes a known for us.
In my personal run, 30 plus years of out of body activity had brought me to a calm state of satisfaction. A cycle has been completed, or so it seemed. My own different overview was well in place and eminently rewarding, or it should have been.
So again, naturally, having traveled out of body for so many years, it's become a known for him. And this is a fact, when we get into these expanded states, a state of calm, a state of centeredness, a state of equanimity automatically starts to come over us. A stillness which comes from that expanded state of consciousness.
I knew where I came from, how I got here and became a human, why I hung around, my final departure schedule, and where I would go when I left. What else could have had any importance? Anything else was mere detail.
So now he knew because he had explored where he had come from, like K95, I think we read about it in Far Journeys, right? So he knew where he came from. He had already explored it, right? Now he knew where he was going because he had already explored it. Okay. And so there was no fear left of what and where he was going. And that is what was very, very important. So he knew where he came from, he knew where he was going, and anything in between was a detail.
And there was my inspec friend. It was one thing to talk with such mind consciousness in sessions in a laboratory as simply a voice speaking through someone physical that you knew well. It was something quite different to encounter one face to face.
So now this is important, right? We spoke about the explorers. So when the explorers were then people who've attended the Gateway Voyage have actually heard a recording, a live recording of what transpired when the explorers were exploring. Okay. So now he's saying that you were in a lab and you were listening to someone speak from someone's vocal cords or it's like channeling and listening to it. But now you are in an out-of-body experience, and you're actually coming face to face with another consciousness, another intelligence. Now that's a totally different ballgame.
But this inspec, either in fun or fact, we had chosen the acronym INSPEC for intelligent species to identify this energy form, which implied that we human minds were something less.
So again, when he met the inspec, right, he felt the inspec was operating from a higher state of consciousness and information or knowledge than he himself. Okay, that actually converted later on. I don't know if you'll remember what happened in Far Journeys, but I'm sure we'll come to that again.
But this inspec was not the same as those I had previously met. Over the years, I had experienced many non-physical meetings, communication, and rapport with those who were obviously very human, those who still possessed a physical body, and otherwise. This inspec, however, was different.
So he had encountered many intelligent species. Okay. He had encountered other people who were who were having an out of body experience. Now, it is a given fact now, according to the research that Robert Monroe did, that all of us go out of body during delta sleep. So he encountered many people over there who were not consciously going out of body. He encountered people who were going consciously out of body also, and he encountered these intelligent species. But the inspect was something totally different. Just 1 second, hold on, Shivamla, hold on, there's racket here.
Our usual meeting place was just past the H-band noise. The H-band noise is the peak of uncontrolled thought that emanates from all living forms on Earth, particularly humans.
So now, again, there's an M band and there's an H band, right? So every time we have a thought, these thoughts are radiating outwards, hitting that M band and getting stuck there and then bouncing back. So every thought that you have is creating static in the environment that we are living in. Okay. So this is what he's saying, that he met the inspect beyond that band of the H band and the M band, which surrounds the earth. So where our thoughts are reaching till, it was beyond that.
If you consider it as truly all, even in a current time frame, you get a better idea of the magnitude of this disorganized, cacophonous mass of messy energy. The amplitude of each segment of the band is determined by the emotion involved in the thought. Yet our civilization does not even recognize that the H band exists.
So again, every thought that you have, what is the intent behind it? What is the emotional content behind it? Vibrates at a particular frequency and it gets stuck in a particular layer of that M band at the H band.
My impression is that it contains not only current time thought patterns, but all that ever existed. They are continuous and simultaneous, and it may be that the older radiation is laid over, so all one perceives is the current emission.
So again, when we are doing biofield tuning, right? So this is everything that we've experienced in this life is recorded in the biofield. Similarly, all the thoughts that people have had while living in earth incarnate in an incarnated form on the earth is all recorded in that field, right? And nothing is hidden. But what do we perceive? We perceive that which is in the front. So there may be layers beyond that which we are not actually perceiving. Similarly, in biofield tuning, there's nothing stopping us going into past lives or going into future lives for that matter to actually check it out. We've not started doing that yet, but it is absolutely a possibility.
To study it objectively, if one is so foolhardy as to want to do so, all one needs to do is move to that state of disassociation just beyond the last vestiges of any direct earth-related human mind activity in the non-physical.
So what is he saying? We are wanting to move. When we want to understand this, we simply need to move into an altered state of consciousness.
All one needs to do is move to the state of disassociation just beyond the last vestiges of any direct earth-related human mind activity in the non-physical there. It appears much like a reflective layer, beyond which the effects diminish rapidly. Passing through it quickly is advisable, just as one would try to work through a screaming, angry mob, for that is what it sounds like in a multitude of accents and tongues.
So again, you don't want to get stuck in that M band. Okay, if you get stuck there, then you're not going to be productive because it's totally a disharmonic kind of a field over there.
Now back to my inspect friend. Here is an excerpt from one of our earlier meetings when I had phased out of my body and moved to a point just beyond the H band. I wonder if this being understands how strong his or her light is. Could it be an ET, extraterrestrial after all? You will become accustomed to the light. You have the same radiation to us, and we are not the extraterrestrials as you mean it.
So his encounter with the inspect.
You read what I'm thinking? That is true, just as you can with me.
So again, we talk about this in the excursion workshop also, that non-verbal communication, okay, is the norm in these expanded states. It is not verbal communication. So they are both understanding each other without actually talking, right? So there is non-verbal communication, a sense of knowing, right? Symbolism starts to play a very important part.
I can. You are doing it now in part, but only the surface part. Yes, you are right. It is certainly not words and sounds, no air to vibrate, but simply in the mind. Yes. What you call the core self does remember. You know, I do remember. I remember you, the feel of you.
So now this is important. I remember you, the feel of you, right? So what is the essence of a personality? That is what we actually remember, right? The outer facade is not important. The inner core of a personality is more important. And that can only come with feeling.
It is good that you do not express fear. We can do much when that barrier is removed.
So now when we go into these expanded states, we constantly tell everyone in the workshops that fear is not something that we can have in these expanded states, simply because we are moving into thought responsive universes, right? And whatever we are thinking will start to manifest. So over here, he's clearly saying that since Robert Monroe did not have fear, it became easier to do things and talk to him.
Oh, I have a few fears left, but they do not rule your perception. For example, why are you not filled with fear at this moment? I don't know, but I'm not afraid. That's true. Right at this moment, I am here talking with you in a rational way. With you, someone who is very familiar to me, a brightly glowing figure that some people would interpret as a god, an angel, or at the very least, some extraterrestrial. Yet, we are here talking just like two ordinary people, except that we are not using words.
So again, no fear, right? So he can actually express and understand what the inspect is saying and what he is saying to the inspect. Again, non-verbal communication.
The difference is the lack of fear. There is so much potential. Who are you actually? Or maybe I should say, what are you? Now I do have the courage to ask.
So again, forever the explorer, he wanted to understand what he was experiencing.
It is beyond your experience to understand at this time, but you will understand and very soon.
So again, there are many things that are beyond our comprehension, right? And the inspect being more intelligent or having access to more information says that Robert Monroe is not ready at this time to actually understand who and what the inspect is, right? And this happens to us all the time. and this was the process of the Gurukul system also. The Guru used to give information to the student to the level of understanding of the student. And as the student grew, more information was opened up to the student.
It is beyond your experience to understand at this time, but you will understand, and very soon. Can we meet again? All you need do is ask for our help.
Now, this is very important, right? This is the fourth state or the third statement in the gateway affirmation, which most of you have done in the excursion. Asking for help, right? When we call out for help, that is when in these expanded states, or our helpers, our masters, our teachers reach out to help us. If we are not asking for help, then they say that, okay, you want to experience this experience yourself, please experience it, right? So asking for help is very, very important. So whenever we ask for help, our helping guides and spirits are always around us.
You mean meditating, saying prayers? The words and rituals are meaningless. It is the thought, the emotion, that is the signal. If the proper signal is given, we are able to help.
So now, so important, right? The focus on rituals, the focus on kriyas, the focus on processes is not important at all. It is more the feeling, the heart connection, right? What are we thinking? How are we thinking? Where are we operating from? Which is what becomes important. If a proper signal is given at the proper frequency, it will be received. That is clearly what is being said over here by the inspect.
Let me be sure of this. You are not the god, a god, but perhaps someone from another planet? No, not from another planet. Are you the one or one of those who may have created us, the earth? No. We are sorry to disappoint you, but we can give you what we have in regard to the creative process. Do you desire it? Why? Yes, yes.
So again, the inspect is not an extraterrestrial and is privy to the creation process or has information about it.
This is what we have. I was filled, almost overcome with a surge of enormous energy, an immensely powerful vibration of very high frequency. This I knew as a rote, short for related organized thought energy, a sort of ball of condensed thought and ideas.
So we talked about the rote in far journeys also. It is a compact package of information which is downloaded. So it's like a download which takes place. We go to the internet and we download a lot of information and then we read it later on, right? Like that, in that expanded state, a ball of information is thrown into you and downloaded into your system, which will open up over a period of time. So all the information that the inspect had about the process of creation was sent to Robert Monroe.
It is so much, I can't understand it all at once. You will when you can examine it at leisure. Thank you. There was a pause before the inspect communicated again. You are uncertain as to your progress, your growth. I am uncertain, that's true. I think I know my goal, my purpose. The uncertainty is what lies in between. What do you perceive as your goal? Well, I guess service to humankind. That is indeed a noble goal. It is the ever-present desire of your human self to attain perfection. When you are no longer human, desire focuses in another direction, but there are other goals. A desire more important? No, I don't mean that. A desire different from the human experience? You are doing very well. I often wonder about that. You will find an answer. Now I perceive you need to return to your physical body.
So again, what is our goal? Our disha, our laksh becomes very, very important. But the disha and goal can constantly change as we grow, we get more information, we get more knowledge. It can also shift. And then, of course, the inspect being more sensitive can now sense that Robert Monroe's bladder is full and needs to go back to the physical. Okay.
You do read my mind. I don't know what it is, but I have to go back. How do we meet again? All you need do is hold this moment in your awareness, and I will be here. Thank you.
So now again, whenever we want to meet someone, all we have to do in this expanded state is actually think of that person and boom, we will be with that person. This is something that most Lifeline participants have actually experienced.
The return to the physical was uneventful. The signal had been generated not by the usual full bladder, but by my favorite cat lying on the pillow beside my head. I was sure I had checked the room, but somehow she must have sneaked in. In my excitement, I wasn't in the least irritated.
So again, I was mistaken that it was the bladder. So when someone disturbs you in these states, at times it can bring you out, or there's an urgent, when we go out of body, what has been seen is there's a silver cord which connects our etheric body, or I'm just naming it the etheric body, with our physical body. And if something disturbs the physical body, a signal is transmitted through that fiber or that cord to inform that body, and then you actually come back. Many times you come back very fast, so you come back with a thud. It's like a airplane landing on the runway.
After this particular inspect encounter, I began to take another look at my goal of service to humankind. This had been my target for many years, to help humans attain peaks of perfection as physical beings not even contemplated by our contemporary culture. To add a goal beyond this was indeed exciting stuff. My different overview was a major factor in this stimulation.
So again, his goal actually was, in the beginning, it was really to understand what was happening to him, right? He didn't have a clue. So the entire investigation of all the explorers and the systems and going into altered states was to understand what was happening to him and whether others could also have that experience. But now, given so many years of doing this, it is more about service to humankind, where to understand and to help others raise their level of consciousness so that there can be paradigm shifts in the way that we all relate to this earth life existence, right? And now the inspect says there's goals beyond that. So naturally, it gets him thinking.
This had been my target for many years, to help humans attain peaks of perfection as physical beings not even contemplated by our contemporary culture. To add a goal beyond this was indeed exciting stuff. My different overview was a major factor in the stimulation. So I took a very hard look. To help someone else live better while in physical form is open to serious possibilities as to motivation. The implication surfaces that any such action cannot help but be or become tainted with drives from what I think of as an animal subself, brought about by existence in the earth life system. This is the very essence of the process. The allure for human minds is near inescapable.
So again, people who are living in physical existence are so focused on the physical existence that they cannot think of something beyond. So the possibility of helping people who are in physical incarnated form and are stuck over here, coming back again and again. This is something again that we encountered in far journeys, where when we go into focus 27, we actually decide what we want to do and come back here. And people get stuck in that cycle, coming back over and over again, to make them aware that there is something beyond this physical life existence, so that they can start to escape, or they develop escape velocity to get out of this pattern that they find themselves in.
I realized that the prime fallacy lay in a simple fact. Whatever I did, whatever I wrote, would have little, if any, effect upon human destiny. It was good to be of service to those around me, but this was no more than passing ego gratification. 2 generations later, it would all be forgotten. Footprints in the sand washed away by the tides of time.
So again, naturally, whatever is done, right, it keeps changing, and we lose a lot of information if no one is with it.
The inspect was right. There had to be other, broader goals. My search for a broad goal that drives every human brought out one that was all too obvious: the nostalgia, the yearning to go home. It could be the physical place where you were born and raised, the house where you lived, the town, the city, the countryside. This could be no more than the homing instinct that is present with variations in virtually all animal species. Or it could be the many forms set forth in assorted religious beliefs.
So the basic point of all religion, right, is to go back home. So in Hindus, you have moksha, in Christianity, you have heaven, and so on and so forth. Even animals want to go back to the place where they were born. We have these stories about salmon traveling huge distances just to spawn their eggs in the place where they were born. Okay. So again, there's an yearning within us to go back to zero, or where we were actually formed.
It might well be that much of our scientific endeavor is inspired unconsciously by such motivation. The rationale that billions spent on astronomy, space probes, radio telescopes, and the like will affect our lives constructively in the predictable future is a very thin premise. The unconscious desire to find home fits much better.
So again, all the money spent in space exploration, why? It's basically for us to explore where did we come from. Basically, that's the game that all space exploration is playing.
Eagerly, I took what was unknown to me. My memory was very vivid as to my source. My new goal became to go and be in what I construed as home. Twice I had been there for very short visits many years ago. All that I had learned while being human might be of immense value if I returned. Such information could indeed effect major changes. It was a joyous concept and I reveled in it.
So again, getting a goal of going back to his origin and discovering what information was available where he actually originated from.
Immediately, I wanted to share this discovery with my inspect friend. Late at night, I phased out of my body and headed for our usual meeting site beyond the H-band. Just out in the clear, the shining figure was waiting at our contract point. The inspect knew my thoughts instantly.
So again, in that expanded state, the moment you say it or think it, boom, it'll happen.
Your wish is to return home. Yes, that is a different goal. After this life, I will stay at home and return to being human for one last time, some thousand or more years from now. After that, I will return home to stay. It is good that you understand the difference between yourself visiting home and yourself returning to being human, as you put it. Yes, but I'm not sure about not being human, I mean. As you remember more, it will become clear to you. You are being human when your fundamental focus remains fixed within such concepts of consciousness. If you change this fundamental, you are no longer human.
So now very clearly is saying, wherever you pay attention, whatever you pay attention to you, whatever you pay attention to, that is what you are. So at this point in time, Robert Monroe is paying attention to his physical life or human life existence, right? So that's what he is. If his attention shifts, then that is what he will become, whatever his attention shifts to. And this is true for all of us, right? Small tasks are being performed all day. What you pay attention to, that is what comes into your awareness. That is what is occurring to you, right? You shift your focus, the other focus goes away, and then you're focused on something else. For example, when we watch a movie, right? We are transported into that reality of that movie. But is it real? It's not. You may even start crying, you may start laughing, you may start cursing in a movie. But is it actually happening? No, you're just focusing your attention into that reality which is playing on the screen. So if you shift your reality, the whole game shifts and changes.
I see. Thus, I stay being human, awake or asleep, in or out of body, physically alive or dead. As long as my reference point is human, that is correct.
So again, he is focusing his attention on the human life existence. So that is what he is. So his consciousness is focused in this existence.
But I retain all of my human memory and experience in whatever state of being. Yes, you have learned much. This experience is of great value as a non human. It is one of the basic purposes for your sojourn. You will draw upon it in many ways non human, but your attention will be in another direction. The graduate from the human experience is very respected elsewhere.
So the human life existence is like a school, right? It's compressed learning because we get a lot of experiences here. Now, when we move into expanded states, there is no time, there is no space. So things move in a very different way in those expanded states. So someone who has had this compressed life experience of living on this earth life system is actually respected a lot in those other states of consciousness. And this is something that most people who've had near-death experiences also talk about, that this experience that we are having here in this earth life experience is greatly valued and respected in those other altered states of consciousness.
Does this mean that in what I remember as home, I will no longer be human? You will be as you were before, but the human experience will be added.
So any experience that we have is never lost. It's always there, right? For us to access. It changes us, changes us. It makes us grow, right? So that's why doing new things all the time becomes so important because that adds to your growth. So over here, the human life existence that he's had will be added to his experience of the form in which he existed in his home, where he actually originated from.
You will be as you were before, but the human experience will be added. It comes down to being in the warm and familiar place where I truly belong. Your desire is very strong. Yes, you wish to be there again. Sometimes I become emotional about it but I know I haven't completed this cycle yet, so it will come in time. As you are now, time does not exist. Is that an inference I can go home now for a short visit? I've done it before, long ago. Is that, if that is your wish, you desire to do this? Yes, for a visit.
So now over here, he very clearly says that in the state you are in now, which is an expanded state of consciousness, he's in an out-of-body experience over there. As you are now, time does not exist, right? So there is no time in that expanded state of consciousness.
You will learn much as a result. Are you ready? Yes. Stretch your mind to there, what you know home to be. Then release from here and you will be there. I will observe and assist if needed.
So again, wherever you focus your attention, there you are. So if he just focuses his attention on where he wants to be, that is his home, boom, he will be there. But he needs to let go of where he is here. Otherwise, it gets grouted and stuck over here. So he releases from here and boom, he's in that K59 or whatever his home was.
I thought of home as strongly as I could and released as the inspector told me. There was sensation of movement, a sound like the wind flowing around me. Before me, around me, the scene came into view. Many hued cloud towers, just as I remember, only they are not clouds, flowing in shades of glowing color. Every color I ever thought of, and some I only remember but can't express. Let me just stop in the cloud and watch, feel, not seeing but feeling.
So again, many shades of colors which he can't express in the colors that he understands or can experience in this earth life experience, right? So they are very different things. And then very clearly he says, not seeing, feeling, right? So again, in these expanded states, feelings become important, a sense of knowing, right? You don't always see things. Again, in these expanded states, your physical organs are not working. Your expanded organs are working. The clair states are working. So you'll be seeing with your closed eyes. So it's actually not seeing, it's experiencing. It's just getting to know what's happening in a state of knowing. That's all.
And there is the music, 1,000 instruments, sounds of voices, melody weaving upon melody. Perfect counterpoint, the harmonic patterns I know so well. Just stretch out and let the clouds enfold me, and the music is all around me, inside me. 1,000 years is but an instant, but an instant. So relaxing and absorbing, just as I remembered it. How great it will be when I return to stay forever. Forever, yes.
So now, basically, is there for a very small amount of time when we calculate it from Earth life existence. But over here, he clearly says it's like 1,000 years is just an instant. So it's a very, very blissful kind of an experience that he's having over there.
A little worm intrudes upon my ecstasy. Is something wrong? No, it's not a signal to return to my body. But what? What's wrong with the clouds? Watch carefully. There, the large bright blue followed by two smaller yellow ones. It's familiar. Others, and they are familiar too. What? That's exactly the same cloud frame. And the others, they are all the same. It keeps repeating over and over again, the same patterns in a repeating loop.
So again, what he's experiencing is things are repeating over there. They're constantly repeating.
The worm, my analytical worm gets larger. The music, check the music. It can't be. But yes, it's repeating. The same as I felt an hour or an eternity ago. Exactly the same. Let me try another spot, another perspective, move to another part of home.
So again, wherever he moves, he's experiencing the same thing. Just hold on 1 minute.
The worm, my analytical worm gets larger. The music, check the music. It can't be. But yes, it's repeating. The same as I felt an hour or an eternity ago. Exactly the same. Let me try another spot, another perspective, move to another part of home.
So now, in this home, things are just repeating. It's always just playing in a loop. Okay.
Here is good enough. This will make it different. But no, it's just the same as it was. It's not different at all. I'll move far away, but still here in my home. There, that ought to do it. No, it's still the same. Nothing new, nothing different. The same pattern over and over. The same clouds, the same music. Let me go in deeper. There they are, a bunch of curls of energy playing games. That's more like it.
So curls, they are basically entities, which are round balls or fuzzy things, which are playing games over there in that space.
There they are, a bunch of curls of energy playing games. That's more like it. I was such a curl once. Let me join in the game. Round and round, up and down, in and out, round and round, up and down, in and out. The game is like an endless loop, round and round, up and down. No more. That's enough for me. That's enough. How about playing a new game? How about, oh, happy with what you've got? Don't want to change? All right, keep doing what you're doing.
So now Robert Monroe, because of his experience on the Earth life experience for that matter, is asking them, would you like to play another game? Right? Because these people in that home planet are stuck in a loop and they're not experiencing anything new at all. They're just repeating the pattern which is there.
How about playing a new game? How about, oh, happy with what you've got, don't want to change? All right, keep doing what you're doing. Where do I go now? Where? That's all there is. There isn't any more. But I don't want to lie around in the same clouds forever with the same music over and over. I don't want to play the same game over and over. How could I have dreamed of? There's nothing here for me now. Nothing at all. Now I remember. This happened to me before. This is why I left. And I can't come back. I don't want to come back.
So again, this is something that he had experienced in far journeys also, and he got stuck there, and then his friend came and pulled him out, right? So now, again, he's saying that I've experienced this before. Now I don't need to experience it anymore. There's nothing new here for me to experience.
I had better leave. I know how. I know how to do it. There was a feeling of movement with the wind around me again. Then silence, then fading easily into my physical body. I opened my eyes and looked through the tears. Nothing in the moonlit bedroom had changed, but I had. I was unable to get to sleep for several hours, too stimulated, too depressed.
So he was back in his physical, but now he had a knowing that his home planet was stuck in a loop and there was no growth and nothing new over there which he could actually learn. So that left him in a slightly compassionate or a a nostalgic kind of a state of consciousness. We can stop here today.